What's up, guys, and welcome to my final Super Bowl show of the week. I'm going to be looking at the player pick'em picks in this one. And based on the game script that I've come up with over the past week of studying this game and talking to some of the best DFS players in the industry, I've got some ideas that can help us profit this week on Underdog's pick'em contests, and I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching my Underdog Pick'em show. Going to be taking a look at basically a lot of their pick'em options. Try to build some single game, lineups based on pick'em, and basically try to win us some pretty good returns. Maybe a couple 90 times our money lineups and stuff like that. I've been messing around with it, and I had a video that I put out earlier where we were able to build a 89 to 1 lineup so that we get 80 to 89 times our money if it hits, basically. And there's a lot of good options on the pick'em contest right now that are relatively easy, should be relatively easy to hit, theoretically, based on my projection of the game script. And I think we can add a couple of those weird touchdown options that I've talked about all week on the Kansas City side. That's going to juice it up to 89, 90 times our money. So I think we can get some potential hits this week based on how I'm projecting this game script to play out, and I'm going to get into that in a second. Make sure to hit the like button, get me to 30 likes. I'll put my favorite picks in the comment section when we get closer to lock, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm 100 short of hitting 1,700, so I want to try to get there by the end of the Super Bowl, but ideally like in the next next few days or so. So help me out there, and let's get into it. It's basically my projection for this game. I think it's pretty evenly matched. I think that the Eagles have some edges in this one, based on their defense mainly, and their offense is basically covered at all angles. They got a run game, they got a passing game, they got stud receivers, they have a tight end. They just have everything that they need. And when you look at the Eagles being a complete team, their defense is stacked, the number one defense in the league, on top of having the number one run game in the league. And you compare that to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, it's basically Patrick Mahomes, and you got some pass catchers in Worthy and Kelsey. They don't really have a run game. Their defense is good, but it's not great. It's not as good as the Eagles defense, and the weapons that the Eagles have are a better fit against the Chiefs defense than the weapons that the Chiefs have versus that Eagles defense. So I think based on the matchups and everything like that, I'm leaning towards the Eagles in this one. I think the total is a little bit high. Last time I saw it was 49.5. It could be lower, but 49.5 was a little high. I think the total comes in lower than that, just based on these teams have, good defensive coordinators. They've each had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and I just think that this game is going to come in lower than that 48 to 49 point total. So that in itself is going to lend itself to like a lot of lowers in some of these picks, or we're going to be picking guys a little bit more off the board as opposed to picking the studs in this one. With the Eagles, I think the best matchups that the Eagles have in this game are going to be the tight end and the slot receivers. Those are the ones that have had the most success against Kansas City this season. If we're looking at a percentage of targets targeted against the slot in Kansas City, 39.9% of targets are going to slot receivers versus this Kansas City defense. Their tight end defense has been weak all season. They've gotten a little bit stronger, but they're still giving up 15.5 DraftKings points a game. I know it's not PPR in Underdog, but that's the that's the info that I go off of. But they are vulnerable to the tight end position is the important thing. They're vulnerable to slot receivers. The Chiefs are a little bit better against wideouts. They got McDuffie, one of the top corners in the league, and he's done a good job. He shut down Nico Collins in, I think, 2 of their last 4 games that they've played of the season. And, they've done a good job against those stud receivers. Kansas City has also had, decent success against running backs. They've only been giving up, 14.8 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. And they've done all right against quarterbacks too, but they are the more vulnerable defense than the Eagles. The Eagles are, just a more solid all-around defense. One of the weak spots of the Eagles defense is going to be the fact that Nakobe Dean is out. Nakobe Dean was one of their top, run defenders, but he also, him missing is going to be a weak spot against the tight end position. And with the Chiefs, that's obviously going to be Travis Kelce. So Kelce is going to be in a better matchup because Nakobe Dean is out. The running backs are going to be in a better matchup with Nakobe Dean out. That kind of leads us to the fact that Patrick Mahomes is throwing 27% of his passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's a huge amount of his percentage of his passes. It's a big part of their de facto run game because their running backs have been so not great. I won't say bad. Kareem Hunt came in the middle of the season when Isaiah Pacheco had a pretty bad injury. He was out for several weeks or a couple months, and Kareem Hunt really took over that role in the backfield. Pacheco came back a couple weeks ago, has not been the same running back. And, just based on Kareem Hunt being their number one, and he was kind of a washed running back before he came to the Chiefs, but he's had a decent rebound with the Chiefs, but he's still not that great of a running back. Their de facto running game has basically been passing at or behind the line of scrimmage, and it's basically lowered the average depth of Patrick Mahomes' targets significantly because they are just throwing such a large portion of their passes at or behind the line of scrimmage. One of the guys that's benefited from that has been Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy's average depth of target has gone from about 11 to about 5. Since they started integrating him more into the offense. They started him off this season as a deep pass catcher, and he's gone down to the guy getting yards after the catch, catching at or behind the line of scrimmage. The problem with that is in this matchup against the Eagles. The Eagles are the top defender of passes at or behind the line of scrimmage, and they are also preventing explosive plays. They've only allowed, I believe, 1 play of 50 yards or more, but they're basically one of the top defenses against explosive plays as well. They're number 1 defense overall. Their run defense is great too, but like I said, that's where the weakness comes in with Nakobe Dean being out. But with Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco not being that elite running back, opposing running backs, I think that's going to put Philly at an advantage just all around when you look at the overall picture here. Now, the Eagles corners have been great. It's been Quinion Mitchell, the rookie, and Darius Slay. Both those guys have been having great seasons, and you saw it last week or the last game that they played where Mitchell was holding down Terry McLaurin. So very tough defense to throw against. The Chiefs don't like throwing deep anyways, but they finally got Hollywood Brown back earlier this season, in the last few weeks of the season. And he's been doing pretty good. He's been getting a lot of the Chiefs don't throw a ton, or at least they don't drop back a ton. And when they do throw, Hollywood Brown has been getting a significant amount of those targets. So he's been targeted a lot. I would imagine in this game, they're going to have to throw more than they usually do. And that is going to set up Hollywood Brown to potentially get some action, especially with, the situation potentially with Worthy, not having the opportunities that he's used to, with the Eagles being so good at what they do. Now, Kelsey, intermediate passes and intermediate, targets are probably going to be the way to go. And that's going to be like Kelsey. That's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe DeAndre Hopkins in there too. Those guys should get opportunities in this one. And I would even throw Samaje Perine in there as well. Just knowing that, like they're likely to have a pretty good chance of shutting down Worthy. And we saw what they like to do with Perine is they like to, bait the defense throughout the game and then hit him at, key moments of the game. We saw it with the Buffalo Bills last week where they, basically iced the game by throwing a 17-yard pass to Samaje Perine. They hadn't thrown to him all game, but then, they hit him with that pass. There was another game against Tampa Bay earlier in the season where, they did a very similar thing where, like Samaje Perine was able to leak out and, get hit in stride for a touchdown pass against Tampa Bay earlier in the season. But I think that as far as the Eagles offense, the weak spots in Kansas City are going to be, like I said, the slot and the tight ends. So that's going to give Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert good opportunity in this game. They've been good against wideouts, number one wideouts. So, we can expect A.J. Brown to maybe struggle. And I think the run game, if you watch Warren Sharp's been talking up how Spags has been good at defending elite running backs in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. But, this isn't, Miles Sanders from a few years ago. This is Saquon Barkley. Christian McCaffrey, if you watch him last year, half the game he was getting massages on the sideline. So he wasn't 100% faced off against this defense last year. But we're talking about Saquon Barkley is on a mission, and, he is 100% pretty much. And, don't be surprised if Saquon Barkley is able to have a decent game in this one. Saquon Barkley has had interviews about how he likes it when the defense stacks the box against him, because it means that there's nobody in the secondary to slow him down once he gets past that first line of defense. So he could end up with, like 14 carries where he does absolutely nothing, but then he could, bust out a, like 30, 40-yard touchdown with one of his carries. So Saquon is always going to be dangerous. He does have a high, like a high prop this week. So let's get into these pick'ems and kind of take a look based on that thinking of how the weak spots against the defense are playing out, and how, Philly might have some advantages here, and where, the Chiefs might have a little bit of advantage as well. Another thing to mention with the Chiefs is that, Mahomes has beaten Vic Fangio in every game that they've played against each other, but, Fangio has always been a part of, crappy, Broncos teams with, good defenses, but poor overall offenses. And he had the Miami Dolphins last season. They played against Mahomes twice last season. One of those games was in the freezing cold, which Tua does not play very well in. Fangio was able to slow down Mahomes, though. Mahomes has never thrown more than 2 touchdowns against Fangio, and just his overall history against Fangio is pretty poor. So another advantage for that Eagles defense. This could potentially be the week that Fangio finally gets his win. So one thing we want to look for when we're doing Underdog is we want to look at some of these deals they got going on. They have a big pre-big game profit boost, 59% profit boost. I'm going to apply that to mine. I don't know if that'll be available by the time this show is up on YouTube, but I'm going to apply that there. They are offering a free, $5 token or $5 no sweat entry. So make sure to take advantage of that if you haven't already. You could put in one of these, 80 times your money lineups and get a big hit with that free money. You can't go wrong with that. Make sure to use the promo code SEEK, SEEK, when you sign up for an Underdog account. They're going to match you up to $1,000, 50% deposit match up to $1,000. You're going to want to take advantage of that. We got best ball has already started. Crazy early this season, but best ball has already started before the Super Bowl has even happened. So that gives you an idea of the growth of best ball. Underdog is the best spot for that. They're the best spot for player-friendly games. You're not having to deal against a bunch of sharks when you're playing a pick'em contest. But we can use our showdown research as kind of a hedge for these pick'em contests, because it's going to give us an opportunity to, if we had like 80 lineups into a $5 contest. So if we have 80 lineups into the flea flicker and, we don't hit on that because we didn't, we missed one spot in a showdown. Like if we hit an 89 to 1 over here on Underdog, that basically makes it a wash. So, I mean, it's a cheap way to potentially hedge if you're right with your showdown projections, but you just don't hit the the right salary constraints and you don't end up hitting in your showdown. Maybe you'll be able to hit over here on Underdog and get a decent return that you wouldn't have gotten on a showdown contest. So let's take a look at some of these potential picks. I'm seeing Patrick Mahomes with a projection at 253 passing yards. I think based on his past performances against Fangio defenses, I think that would be a good lower to take. I'm not going to take it yet, but let's keep that in mind. That's a pretty good lower to take for Patrick Mahomes. I know a lot of people are expecting Patrick Mahomes to have a big game in this one, which wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, it's a very difficult matchup for him. And, the Eagles are hungry in this one. I would not be surprised to see him go below that 253.5 passing yards. Another one is 36.5 passing attempts. With the defense being as strong as it is against, his main source of passing, don't be surprised if they have to lean more on the run game in this one. We could see a lower 36.5 passing attempts in this one from Patrick Mahomes. And, like some of those dropbacks could turn into runs in this one. So, that's a pretty high pass attempt number for Mahomes in this one. If I'm looking at his history, let me see what kind of good look over at DraftKings to get an idea of his history. Okay, so pass attempts. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He's had 11 over, over that 36.5 mark. So maybe not as low as I thought it was. So, but I do think against, like a Fangio defense, he's going to be less less pass happy. And I just think that the matchup itself doesn't necessarily lend itself to taking an over on that. So I'm just going to probably skip Patrick Mahomes. I don't like any of those options there. If I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, he's got 26 and a half pass attempts. Let's see his anytime touchdowns. Rushing and receiving touchdowns is 0.9 times your money if he goes higher. So I'm probably going to ignore that. Let's go straight to some of the guys that I actually like in this one. Barkley has 114.5 rushing yards for his prop. He's blown that out of the water in a bunch of games. But if their defense is going to be focused on Barkley, getting 114.5 rushing yards is not an easy thing to do. So I'm looking at his rushing and receiving touchdowns. We're looking at 0.67. I'm not a huge fan of that. I do like, potentially if they're going to be defending him extra in this one, that 14.5 receiving yards, I could see him going over that. But I did try to go higher on his receiving yards last week, and it did not work out for me. It seemed like it was like a lock, but he did not end up getting the receiving work that I thought he might. If we're looking at his receiving yards in the past few games, he's had 1 of 27. And then you have to go all the way back to week 12 to see, when he was at that past that 14.5 mark again. So he has not had a ton of games over that mark, and especially not recently. So it would be hard to take that mark with Saquon Barkley. But one thing that I do like more is his longest rush. Longest rush is 23 and a half points, 23 and a half yards. And if you look at his longest rush, we had 60 last week against Washington, or last game against Washington, 78 against the Rams. We've seen, 23 against Dallas, 68 against Washington, 25 against Baltimore, 72 against the Rams, 39 against Washington, 55 against the Giants, and just goes on and on and on with these wicked long runs. So if I'm going anywhere on Barkley, I kind of like this going higher on his longest rush. So let's plug that one in now. Let's see. Let me take a look at some other options here on my list. Okay, so like another potential one we could look at is DeAndre Hopkins for his receiving yards. DeAndre Hopkins, the guy I mentioned up at the top, potentially one of these targets that Patrick Mahomes might turn to with the difficulty that Worthy might have in this game. Now, Hopkins has receiving yards of 12.5. He hasn't really been involved in the game plan too much recently. It's been kind of weird. Like, I was thinking that he might be more involved in the playoffs, but he hasn't done really anything. But his receiving yards, 16. Let's see. He was doing really well from weeks 8 to about 16. He hit over that 12.5 mark in all those games. And he even had 11 against Buffalo last week. But I do think that, we will probably see a little bit more usage of DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're not going to really have a choice in this game. if you put yourself in Andy Reid's shoes, if the defense you're facing is good against defending against the deep ball, and they're good against also defending at or behind the line of scrimmage, which part of that defense are you going to want to attack? If you got Hopkins, he's a big-bodied receiver. He's able to make contested catches. I'm going to take my chances with trying to get the ball downfield, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to kind of lend himself to that type of game plan. Hollywood Brown is basically the other successful wideout that they have. So let's go higher on these receiving yards for Hopkins. So we got Barkley higher than 23.5 for his longest rush, and Hopkins higher than 12.5. You'll see me pick a lot of hires, and it's mainly because I'm just looking for these types of matchups that I like, as opposed to just looking at a player's prop and deciding if I want to go like higher or lower on it. Like if some of these stars, a lot of people like picking out these stars and going lower on their their props, and I don't mind doing that either. But like this is more along the lines of what I typically do. With Samaje Perine, we're looking at 8.5 receiving yards. That's another one that I don't mind. Let's go back and look at Samaje Perine. So receptions for Perine, we've had 17, 13, 20, 50, 23, 16, 11. All since week 12. He's hit that in every game since week 12, basically, and even beyond that. Like he's really only had, what's that receiving yard prop again? It's 8.5 receiving yards. He's only missed that in 1, 2, 3. He's only missed that in 4 games this season. So to me, that is a really good, a really good opportunity. Not many people are going to be clicking on Samaje Perine, so that's probably why they're able to put his receiving yards at 8.5 to try to entice people into it. I'm going to go higher on that. I like the chances of that hitting. So this is bringing our entry amount up to 8.95 times our money with that 59% bonus added on there. All right, so now I'm going to take a look at one of the stars. Let me take a look at my list and see who I like. I think let's see. A lot of the projections like Xavier Worthy more than me this week. I'm not a huge fan of Xavier Worthy in this matchup. Let's take a look and see what Worthy's done recently. If you look at Worthy's receiving yards, 85, 45, 79, 65, 46. He's had some decent weeks. Has he not gotten? He hasn't gotten 100 yards yet this season. He's very popular for a guy who hasn't hit 100 yards this season, and he's in a very difficult matchup against the Eagles. Let's take a look at what Worthy's yards are. 66.5 rushing and receiving yards. Just looking at receiving yards. If we're looking at 57.5, I'm tempted to go lower on Worthy, but 57.5 He's hit that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's only hit it 5 times this season, and he's in a very difficult matchup. So I think we can go over here to Worthy and go lower on this 57.5 receiving yards. I just don't like him this week. I don't think he's going to have a great game. Um, I think that Kelsey is going to be the focus of the offense this week. If we're looking at Kelsey, he's got a 62.5 receiving yards. Now, my interest in the tight end position against the Eagles. So we've kind of seen this weakness against tight ends in the last few weeks. Against Zach Ertz, they allowed something like 10 receptions. They allowed like another 10 targets to Tyler Higbee in the round against the Rams. Rams, I think Higbee scored 2 touchdowns in that one, and I can't remember if Ertz scored a touchdown in that last game, but he ended up having a big game against them. But I do think that Philadelphia is going to be vulnerable to tight ends in this one. So we have an option here. Now I've got Worthy, I've got Pirine, I've got Hopkins, and I've got Barkley. So I've already got four picks in this pick'em. Now, Establish the Run put out an article on the optimal way to approach these pick'em contests. They say that it's the most EV positive when you do it with going with a pick 5 in these. It makes the most sense to go pick 5 as opposed to pick 4. I think pick 3 might make sense too, but pick 5 is the the most profitable or the most long term profitable. So for my 5th pick, if I want to really increase my odds, I want to go for like a weird touchdown play. And this is the perfect game to do something like that because with the Chiefs, when they have a couple weeks to prepare for a game, they usually will throw a touchdown to a random guy. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year. It was McCole Hardman and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Neither of those guys had been heavily involved in the offense up until the Super Bowl, and then they both scored touchdowns. Prior to that, against the Eagles, it was Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Same situation. A couple guys who had not been heavily involved in the offense end up scoring touchdowns. And if you go back and look at what the Chiefs have done after bye weeks, another example. Let's go to. Let's see. Well, let's stick over here with Underdog. Let me look at my phone on this one. I believe Samaje Perine scored a touchdown in their last game after a bye, just to give you an idea of kind of random guys that can potentially score touchdowns for the Chiefs and increase our chances of maybe getting a hit on one of these off the board touchdown plays. So looking at the divisional round, when the Chiefs came off their bye, they had 2 weeks to game plan against the Texans, and the Chiefs, they love to come up with those trick plays that are going to maybe like set things up for them guys. There wasn't anyone that did anything in that game. So let's check and see when their bye week was. I was doing a little bit of digging into this, and I did notice that, it's kind of a pattern with the Chiefs where, there'll be a random guy that gets a touchdown when they come off of their bye weeks. And a lot of that goes to, just game planning. They're trying to figure out a way to add a play in there, for when they get into a high leverage situation, like last year in the Super Bowl when they threw the game winning touchdown to McCole Hardman. That nobody saw that coming. Hardman had hardly been involved in the offense at all, and like as soon as that big moment came, when the defense was focused in on the star players or the main players on the team, that's where a guy like McCole Hardman is able to leak out a little bit and get that touchdown. I think the best options for that on the Chiefs, let's see, week 7 would have been the last time, the Chiefs were coming off of a bye. They played the 49ers, and in that game, let's see. That game we did not see, like a random touchdown, but we did see a random touchdown. We saw McCole Hardman in that game got a rushing touchdown. So, similar situation, like they schemed a guy that nobody expects to do anything in a high leverage situation, and McCole Hardman ends up with a rushing touchdown. So I think the guys that would be most likely to get one of those random touchdowns in this game are going to be Noah Gray because of Noah Gray's situation against the Eagles being weaker against tight ends. If the defense is looking towards Travis Kelce, then that's going to leave Noah Gray in a situation. Noah Gray on top of that, I believe he has like 5 touchdowns this year already. So let's check out Gray and see what his touchdown chances are here. Look at that 3.6, 3.6 higher. So now look at what this does to juice up this pick'em, right? Right now we're looking at 10x bumped up to 15.3x with that boost that I got from that Underdog promotion. So now I'm going to add in Noah Gray at 3.6x. That bumps this pick'em, a pick 5, up to 113.89. So if Noah Gray is that random guy that gets a touchdown in this, look at all these other props that I put in here, right? Based on the logic and looking at past performances, picking out picks that seem pretty reasonable, based on the game script projection and the historic performance of these players. We got Barkley 23.5 for his longest rush. That's completely reasonable. We got DeAndre Hopkins 12.5 receiving yards. He's beat it like almost every game this season, especially recently. Same with Samaje Perine, 8.5 receiving yards. Xavier Worthy, we got him at 57.5 receiving yards, going lower on that number. He's the only one I'm really would be nervous about here, apart from Noah Gray, scoring his touchdown. But we're looking at 113.89 here. We could take Gray out, and if we thought, Justin Watson, maybe another guy that they like to target in the end zone, if he scores a touchdown, that's 10.56, right? So look what happens if we put Justin Watson in here with a touchdown. Bumps us up to 250x. That would be my max entry multiplier. But 250x if we put Justin Watson in there. Now, let's go to DraftKings and look at Justin Watson. He hasn't been as involved, obviously, with all the players that have. Oh, he's already in my lineup here. All the players that have been kind of picked up this season, but it's not out of the question for Justin Watson to score a touchdown. He's got 2 on the season already. He scored 1 against Vegas, and he scored 1 in Week 17 against Pittsburgh. So, Justin Watson completely in play for a touchdown. He's a guy that they like to go deep to. We've seen him get this. This one was a 49-yard touchdown. We've seen him. The other one was a 6-yard touchdown. But he does get some deep passes. And I think that in this game where they're trying to throw maybe deep or intermediate passes, then Watson is completely viable as a player that could hit for us. And you know what? Like, if I'm getting that 59% boost from Underdog on this, I'm going to go ahead and use Watson. I'm going to do another variation. So I'm playing for $10 on this pick 5. If I win, it's $2,500. I'm going to bump that to $15. If I win, it's $37.50. So basically, I've got some pretty reasonable picks here. I add in Justin Watson at his 10.56 any touchdown, rush or receiving touchdown, basically. If he hits that touchdown, I'm betting $15 to win $37.50. So basically, if Watson scores a touchdown, then it's a huge payout, assuming those other picks hit, which is, that's obviously still going to be difficult to hit, but Watson's going to be the toughest leg of this pick'em, and it just boosts us up to a crazy number. We've seen it time and again with the Chiefs throwing these touchdowns to random guys in the Super Bowl. It's not out of the question for Watson, Hopkins, P. Ryan, or Gray to score a touchdown in this one. So I would maybe rotate each one of those guys out in this pick'em. I'm going to do one for $15 since I had that huge boost. But, if I was doing this regular, I'd probably just do $5 on Watson anytime in this pick'em, and then swap him out for like Juju or Noah Gray or Samaje P. Ryan for that any touchdown. Just like we do with our showdown contest, we're just trying to get as many guys in that touchdown spot as possible to cover all our bases. But we want to make sure that our core, just like in DFS, our core is maybe props that we think have a high likelihood of hitting, that may not necessarily be big payouts for them, but they set us up for our 5th pick to just like boost us to the moon here. So I'm going to go play for $37.50 on this one. Oh, the promo expired. All right. Well, that sucks. But you guys get the idea. The 59% boost has expired on me. I was thinking that maybe if I applied it, since I applied it, that it would go through for me, but it did not. So if I play it, that bumps me down. Well, it doesn't bump me down all that much. I'm still at, 31.68. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for $15. I don't know what that means. I'm going to do it on my phone, but you guys get the idea. Pick 5, playing for $15. My win potential is $3,168. You guys can jump in on that with me. Use the promo code SEEK, SEEK. That's going to get you a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So if you put in $2,000, you're going to get $1,000 in free bonus cash to play on Underdog with. And we got Best Ball, obviously, has started. You can take advantage of that. You can play a few of these in the Super Bowl, basically risk-free since they're giving you free money. I would recommend doing that and just enjoy the game. Got to share over the tab. Just enjoy the game. Like it's just it's an easy thing to do. Kind of run through that again here. We got Saquon Barkley higher than 23.5 for his longest rush. We got DeAndre Hopkins higher than 12.5 receiving yards. We got Samaje P. Ryan higher than 8.5 receiving yards. We got Xavier Worthy higher than 57.5 receiving yards. And we got Justin Watson higher than 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns. Now, I'm putting $15 on this to win 31.68. I can swap out Watson, for a few different plays. I could switch this over to, like maybe a $5 play, swap out Watson, or enter this one with Watson, do it again with P. Ryan, swap him out for P. Ryan, do it again with, like maybe Juju, do it again with, I think the other guy that I would like that would be, like lesser expected would be, would be Hopkins. So, oh, Noah Gray. Noah Gray was the other one with the weakness of the Eagles versus the tight end. Noah Gray would be the other guy to plug in for this anytime, or rushing or receiving touchdown. So gives us a few different options there to play with, but $15 to win 31.68. You guys see what's possible here. Use the promo code SEEK, SEEK, to sign up for that Underdog account, and I will see you guys later on. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes so I can put my favorite, favorite pick'em picks in the comment section as we get closer to lock. And thanks for watching, guys. It's been a good season. Keep an eye out for some of my my shorts and my check out the game script shows that I put out throughout the week for DraftKings Showdown contests. All right, guys. Good luck.